Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to give everyone a few minutes to jump on and get their cameras set up. Morning, Andrew.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. What's the beach like? The beach weather like?
Today it's actually a little bit overcast,
Okay.
but it's breezy and on the warm side, a little humid. Yesterday was so humid. I went for a 3-mile walk and thought I was going to pass out.
Holy moly.
How about you, snow?
Well, thankfully, no. I think well, it's overcast here right now, but today I think we might hit maybe like 12 degrees.
Oh boy, that's Celsius though, right?
Yeah, just just
Okay.
a bit over zero. So we did have, obviously, we've had snow the last little while, and so they say tomorrow might be we might actually hit like 20 degrees, but rainy. So I don't know, but it's been 8 months straight of snow, cold, rain. So we are in desperate need of some nice weather.
Yes, and I would love a little bit of a chill.
Yep. Okay, well, you can have ours, and I'd love to trade for at least a little while.
Okay, well, we have some new people with us today. I see names that I don't recognize. I don't see any pictures yet. So I just want to introduce myself to the people who haven't been here before. My name is Barry Rubin, and Steve Porcaro and I run these calls to help you guys through all the craziness that's happening with COVID-19. Since this is your first time joining us and you're probably on your phone, just make sure that if you'd like to speak, you use the buttons in the participants box to raise your hand so we don't talk over each other. And if you're on your phone, *6 is to mute. And if you're on your phone, *9 is to raise your hand. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Eric, I'll go next because you're the next one on the list. Can you say hi?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Good. And where are you calling from?
Pittsburgh, PA, yeah.
Nice. How's your weather there today?
It's kind of cloudy, overcast, rainy. We have like one nice day, then we have like 3 or 4 bad days. Then we have one nice day, 3 or 4 cloudy, rainy days, so.
I had some clients up in the Cranberry area. I used to go up there. Pittsburgh is nice. Nice people.
Yeah, I actually just moved back. I was in Connecticut for like 12 years and then wanted to relocate to be back closer to parents and home. So I came back and then COVID hit. I was like, I can't even go sell anything.
Oh, so what's your area of interest professionally speaking?
Currently I'm just, medical device sales rep. I get your emails every week, and I was like, I finally had an opportunity to jump on a call, so I just wanted to see what it was all about, and
Well, Thursday mornings are coffee and conversation. This one is a little bit more casual. Just kind of, if you're dealing with any challenges that you want to discuss, or just a safe place to let off some steam and talk about what's going on in the industry. Mondays are a little bit more structured.
Okay. Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I guess my biggest question is, I don't know what everybody's role is here, but I'm the rep, and I'm just trying to figure out, when is it okay to go back in there to try to sell? I don't want to seem too aggressive or pushy, and everybody seems very sensitive about that right now. So that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is no right or wrong answer to that. Some states are slowly opening up and allowing businesses to, resume their normal activities. Some are still semi-locked down. And I think the consensus here has been that you kind of have to follow the lead of your clients and just let them know that you're there for them when they need you, and, offer your help, ask consultative questions, and just keep building that relationship until it's fairly obvious that it's okay to move forward, because people still have, even though their businesses are open and the hospitals are slowly, the curve is flattening, people still have a lot of other fires on their plates to put out. So we still have to be kind of sensitive to that.
Okay.
I saw Natasha sign on. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning.
I'm going to finish the loop that I was doing so that everybody can introduce themselves, and then I'll come back to you. Derek, I see you are joining us without video. That's okay. So I unmuted you. If you could introduce yourself, tell us your name, where you're from, what your role is in the industry, and anything else that you want to just do as a quick intro.
Good. I'm Derek Lee, and I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. I actually am looking for work. My background is extensively in the medical device market with a lot of products in the physician preference item area as a corporate account executive, as well as a number of just different medical industries I've been in, capital, laboratory. So I have a pretty mixed background, but I'm looking in and want to continue in the corporate/national accounts area and continue building those relationships as I have in the past. I just recently left a company, or was reorganized out of a company, a major GPO here in the Dallas market, which you probably are familiar with without mentioning their name. They're going through some major reorganization right now. So the engagement that I was on reorganized, and then my company reorganized. So it's COVID-19, it's cut cost. I don't know if all of it is all related, but again, just networking a little bit so I can get out there and continue to stay engaged so that I don't lose touch. This is where I feel most comfortable in my job search. And so I want to kind of figure out how everyone is doing it. I think the last question was very apparent or curious to me is, when does that trigger hit where we get back into the hospitals, or where are they going to allow us back in? I was offered a job verbally right after I was laid off, but they can't train me. They can't hire me to fly me anywhere. I can't get into hospitals right now. So they've put that position on hold until this plays out. So I'm just curious to see how it's going to play out, pretty much.
And that seems to be a recurring theme here. Everything is just up in the air. And I think one of the skills that we all have to a certain degree that we really need to start exercising and building is resilience and patience, because we have to be able to bounce back to 100%, but we have to be patient getting there. And it can be very frustrating, especially if you're used to very structured environments and very structured cultures and having a certain way of doing things. We don't have that control anymore. This is so far out of our control that I'm sure we all have experienced those moments of frustration and wondering when it's going to end and wishing it would hurry up and change. But truly, I think resilience and patience are going to take us all a long way. Thank you for your input. I'm sorry to hear you got reorganized. We've all been there. The last couple of weeks, we've gotten a lot of people in transition joining our groups. And just for everybody's information, I'm usually the co-host. Today I got a promotion. Steve actually had a course, a webinar he has to teach. It was scheduled. There was a scheduling conflict. He's going to try and jump on if his class ends right on time. It should be right around when ours ends as well. But he just wanted to wish everybody well and say hi and cross your fingers that I don't disconnect everybody. Okay, so another introduction I'd like to do, and I'm just calling out in order of what I see on my screen. Someone named Ethan joined us. Hi, Ethan. If you would like to introduce yourself to the group, where you're from, what you do, anything that's on your mind, COVID related, the floor is yours.
Oh, cool. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. So I'm Ethan Lauer. I live in Austin, Texas. I've been a medical device and mainly orthopedics and spine since 2000. Now I own a software company called Implant Base. We're a tool for field inventory management and sales operations management for primarily spine and orthopedics, although we've got some biologics and a couple of wound care customers as well. And so I've been, kind of bouncing around several of these, WebEx podcast type things just periodically over the course of the last 8 weeks. Really just trying to keep a pulse on, how people are doing and what people are saying and hearing and all of that. I think at least the folks that I talk to, customers and the folks I'm on these podcasts with, the orthopedic guys are starting to get busy again. And especially in the states that are opening up and have kind of flipped the switch back on orthopedic surgeries. And I apologize if you guys, I know I jumped in late, so if somebody's already covered this, I apologize if I'm repeating stuff everybody knows. But so the, in the places where they've opened back up, I'm hearing, numbers around, we're back up to 80% in those locations, where we were call it February, volume wise. And a lot of the restrictions that were existing on the reps, they were doing things like having them, take their temperatures and asking them if they were in another hospital today and they couldn't come into this hospital, and they weren't letting them get in to get to their equipment and all of those types of things. In the places where it's opened up, they're kind of getting it back to normal. And I think one of the things that the reps were talking a lot about early on was, it's never going to go back to normal. They're not going to let us back in the operating rooms, all of those things. And there was also another camp that was like, yeah, you're crazy. As soon as they come back, and surgeries start happening, these hospitals are going to be swamped with cases, and they're going to realize just how much they rely on you. And so it has really, in these guys' experience, it has been the latter, that, they want them back in there. And, of course, there are, some additional requirements. You've got to get your temperature taken and all that, but that takes 2 minutes. So in any case, that's, where we see it, what we're seeing in our customer base, which is across about 40 different orthopedic manufacturers domestically, they're starting to come back. So I think I caught the tail end of that last thing, which was, some more like, we don't know when it's going to end. And it was, there's a lot, and I'm sure in a lot of parts of the country, there's still a lot of doom and gloom. But I think in other parts, the sun is starting to shine, and everybody's getting back to some semblance of normal. So.
That's great. That's why I always ask, because we're so spread out geographically. And I'm in a relative hot spot, so to speak. I'm in South Florida, and the New Yorkers brought it with them when they came down for the winter. So it's a different animal here, and it's even different where I live versus the rest of Florida because of the fact that there's such a heavy concentration here of New Yorkers. And you've got Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Palm Beach County, and we're all here. And then, up north, it's completely different, like Tampa and Jacksonville. They're not as their rates are not as high as ours. So it's interesting to hear how different parts of the country are opening up and sort of what their schedule looks like. So I'm glad to hear that it's opening up for you. A lot of people are still struggling with, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for that input. It's actually very helpful. I want to continue getting everybody to introduce themselves so that the new people, can meet the people that have been here previously. I saw that Catherine signed on. Catherine, why don't you say hello to everybody?
I am Catherine. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, and as of 5 p.m. Friday, our stay-at-home is lifted. So yay, we're finally moving on. So my company is Ruby Slipper Car Seat Cover, and I help people with limited mobility and strength be able to easily sit, turn, and slide into and out of the car seat with my product.
Excellent. Thank you. Natasha, you're on mute. If you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the people, that would be lovely.
Hi, Hey, so I'm Natasha. I am actually in the Atlanta area. So, of course, Georgia lifted a lot of the stay-at-home orders. So I actually have a new company that I am like starting with, but just like, yes. So that's a little praise report, but it's just a little start because it's a commission only. And then, of course, we all know that a lot of hospitals, and also this was a textile factory. So they have transitioned into making masks and gowns, as well as thermometers and things like that. So I'm just helping connect them with different healthcare centers and other clinics that may need help with that inventory, especially since it will be local. So I just carry a couple territories locally. But yeah, and I'm really new to medical device sales. So I started about a month ago applying for jobs and things like that. So yeah, I look forward to sharing more about my story, but that's my introduction.
Great. Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Lisa, would you like to say hello to everybody? You're on mute. I'll unmute you. Hold on one sec. Where is it here? There we go. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, yeah, so thank you. I made it on. I remembered a little bit late, but I remembered today's meeting. So, yeah, so basically a little bit about my background. I'm actually in Florida, very close. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and I grew up in New York, so I hear about all the New York stories. My family's still there. So, yeah, it is uniquely different down in this part of Florida because of all the snowbirds all the time. But my background is actually in animal health care and the veterinary background in medical devices, medical supplies, nutrition, nutraceuticals. I've been in this industry for about 20 years and was recently downsized because of the situation. So I'm looking for a change. I'm looking to possibly get on the human side or stay on the vet side. It really depends on what's going to open up when things start to open up again. I heard that they're actually starting to open up Broward County, my county I live in, next week, I think. And I think they opened up part of your county already in Palm Beach. So don't know how that's going right now with other parts that are opening, but I'm happy to hear that parts of these other states are opening up. So that means we're moving forward. It's hard to stay put without a logical plan in place, and I think everybody realizes that. So it's interesting, to see what's going to play out. And for some people that are not familiar with the veterinary background industry, it's taken a big hit as well. They're putting off, surgeries, only doing important surgeries. As if you have a pet, you can't go in the hospital anymore. So it really changed the dynamics. And the people that are making all the money right now is Chewy and Amazon for all the home deliveries. So that's the business to be in right now. I tell you, also Home Depot, and I was in Home Depot yesterday. My God, I couldn't find a parking spot. The lines are out of control. Wow. So, yeah, so that's another business to be in right now.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Welcome. Yeah, it's in Palm Beach County, where I am. They've started opening some of the golf courses, some of the beaches, but you're not allowed to sit on the beach. You can only walk by the beach, and you've got to maintain social distancing. The big news is the Boca Town Center Mall, which is the biggest mall in this part of Florida, just reopened on Monday. So that
did they? That's good news.
Yeah. That'll be interesting, though, to see how they, because they can only have 25% capacity in a shopping mall. I mean, how do you enforce social distancing?
That's a very busy mall.
I know. It's going to be, I'm staying away for a while. Let's put it that way. We had another person join us. Alan, I'm going to have you introduce yourself because there are some new callers on our conversation today.
I'm here in the Salem, Portland, Oregon area. a background in pharmaceuticals, medical devices, diagnostics, and I'm here to learn.
Awesome. Did I get everybody? I think I did. Okay, so there's one person who's having trouble, some technical issues trying to get into the meeting. Melissa is here, but she can't get in, so we'll see what's going on with that. Hi, Derek. Ah, a face to the name.
I figured it out. I just figured out why I wasn't getting it. I was doing everything on my main computer, and then I started using my iPad, and all of a sudden my camera didn't work. So I figured it out.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm always curious, there's always so much stuff going on and so much doom and gloom. Who has something good that happened to them this week so far? Anybody?
This is Alan. I've gotten a few phone calls that they are, and I guess that's good. I mean, overall, I know what you're saying and getting at is there's so much pessimism out there. People are reaching out for any inspiration that they can. And my only thing is since I have a peppered resume, is to start vetting the actual employers. Is this is a long-term goal, or is this just something that they're testing out, or they're just curious of, 1099, that kind of thing, and it's not something I'm interested in. But that to me is optimistic, considering I've been sitting around for quite some time. So I'll leave it at that.
And you bring up a good point. A lot of people who were furloughed or let go or were in transition before this started, and it just made that climb feel a little bit more insurmountable. I think it's really important to do your research and vet the opportunities that come your way, because sometimes, and I've had this conversation with a couple of friends of mine, because we read these job descriptions and they sound great and it sounds perfect. Perfect sometimes could be a big red flag. It means they've got a really good copywriter in their human resources department. So not just taking those job descriptions at face value and really digging in and maybe, reaching out to other people that work for the company on LinkedIn and getting the scoop and doing your Glassdoor research to find out what people say. Again, Glassdoor, same thing. You have to take that with a grain of salt, because a lot of times a disgruntled employee will leave a nasty review and they get a lower score than they normally would have. Also, they have people giving fake positive reviews. There is so much to, work your way through when it comes to vetting opportunities, but that's a really important step, because the last thing you want to do is start on the first day and by the end of the day going, oh my goodness, what did I do, right?
Well, one of the things I have done is I get a publication called MM&M, Medical Media Marketing, or the opposite, Medical Marketing and Media. And if they have an article, they will generally say CEO blah, 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 has just announced. I'll look that CEO up on LinkedIn, and I will look at who started it. Who was the idea behind it? What was their background? And I'll link in with them. And generally, they will accept it. And then I will find out when they link in who all the people are in their organization. We really do have a good tool when it comes to that. I'm not going to say it's the grail of everything, but the optimism is I'm learning how to vet out the actual company itself and find out how it actually was created, what was the idea behind it, and are they achieving their goals. So to me, the learning aspect is a positive, and I'm going to give myself kudos for at least knowing how to kind of get around. And when people say, what's that all about? Who started it? We should know that when the phone call begins.
Excellent. Excellent. I am a big proponent of doing your research before you get on a phone call. And sometimes when you go further than just LinkedIn, if you do maybe towards the bottom of page 1 on Google, you can find out some very interesting information about people. And I've had situations where, if someone has a very interesting hobby, let's say they're a marathon runner and they came in 3rd place in their local whatever, in the course of conversation, speaking to someone, when you throw out a fact like that, they instantly know that you did your research. So it's very important to do that due diligence and see if you can uncover the information that will help you professionally, but also sometimes those little clues that help you connect and get that personal relationship going. So you got to do a little bit of both.
Well, I've gotten a little bit from everybody on these calls over the last couple of weeks, so I appreciate it from everybody.
Excellent. Does anybody else have something positive that happened to them this week that they'd like to share?
I would like to share something, and this is really a question, and I apologize. I'm not sure how positive it is, but this is Lisa. So, you know, I see a lot more contract 1099 positions, and I'm a little leery of them, and I'll tell you why. First of all, that's not really where I want to be, but I'll be there temporarily. But yeah, doing research, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there have been some people out there trying to scam jobs too. And I'll look up the people on LinkedIn. I'll see if I find them. Now, I realize not everybody has a LinkedIn account, but I think more people than not have a LinkedIn account. So I get a little leery if I don't see that they have a LinkedIn account. I'll look up the website, but anyone can create a website, you know, especially these people, these scammers that are so good at, you know, IT and doing things like that. So I just wanted to see if anybody has any further advice in this topic.
I can help out a little bit on the 1099 route. So I was approached and only by referral. I will tell you, maybe if you can get references within the company that, you know, can help you or guide you. I was approached by 2 companies actually to work as a 1099 and share your experience. Of course, these are positions where you can go in as a support, a knowledge expert. You can take the place of someone who's been working in a role that needs a break. It's a short-term position, but your cost or your position is paid very, very well. Unfortunately, if you have a source for benefits, you can outsource that. Maybe your husband or spouse or friend, you know, that you have a different way of getting your benefits. I don't, so I have to take that cost on by myself. But again, the money is very good. The positions are typically, you want to vet those. They require more of an NDA. They want a non-disclosure or some type of agreement that you won't share their information. Those are typically pretty straightforward, but it is a resource for some additional income. If you want to do it on the side and you can vet it out to be more secure, like I said, references, check with people, do your due diligence and research behind it, but they can be very, very good and very resourceful. I have a friend that she didn't really want to go back to work. Her son had cancer and he's now better. So she wanted to stay with him, but still work. And she's now in a position, they want to extend her contract almost every 6 months. And she's making probably better money than she's ever made in her life. So if you can find the right one, they're really, really good to get, and you might fall into something where they want to hire you.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you.
I just want to, we have one more person to introduce to some of the newer callers. Melissa, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. I was having technical difficulties. And I was texting Steve, Barry, I don't know if I have your number.
Okay,
So
I'll make sure you have it.
Yeah, because that's why there's 2 of me logged in. It was saying the host will let you in shortly, and then it didn't happen. So I don't know. I thought I closed out, but
yeah, you're stuck in your other entry.
Yeah, and I don't know how to get rid of that one. So if you guys don't mind, I'm not going to stress about it. Because if I click on it and I hit leave, I'm afraid I might lose my current connection. So
okay, We got you.
Anyway, I want to say hello to everyone. I had a really rough night, so I'm not feeling that well. But I'm like, I got to see my friends, or else I won't see them again till Monday. So, but I have exciting news. I have another robot interview with a different Pfizer job.
Excellent.
Right.
So, I will look into the core values this time in case it's the same exact. So I thought, yeah, and it's due by Saturday, so I'm going to try to do it tonight, I think.
Excellent. Good luck.
It's for the drug Xeljanz, and it'd be calling on rheumatologists and GI. So, yeah. I want to learn about Derek. Did he already do his introduction or no? I probably
Yes.
missed it. Okay.
Derek is from Texas.
And Ethan, too. Okay, go ahead.
Derek is from Texas. He's in medical devices, and Ethan has his own software company in orthopedics. Did I get that right? Excellent.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
where
I'm
are
also
you,
in
Ethan?
Texas.
Ethan is also in Texas. He's in Austin. Sorry, I should unmute you. Sorry, I didn't speak. Go ahead.
No, that was it. That was it.
Okay, and we had someone else join us. Darlene, could you introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'm Darlene Bartos. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am seeking a nurse specialist position. I have about 15 years medical device nurse specialist background.
Are you currently working or are you in transition?
I'm in transition. My full-time position was downsized to per diem. About a month ago. So I'd rather have something full time.
Okay. Well, we were going around and I was asking everybody if they had a story to share of something positive that happened to them this week, or conversely, if you had a really big challenge that you need help with. Anyone? Melissa, you're muted. Hold on.
I already shared mine about my interview, but I had two impromptu informational interviews that I wasn't expecting with the Pfizer people. So I had really a lot of movement this week, lots of good stuff happening, very busy. So in a good way.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually had my third Skype interview with a nonprofit that does academic detailing. So they do training for the PCPs in their office on the opioid addiction and the problems with opioid addiction. So it's pretty interesting. I'm hoping it continues in the right trajectory.
Excellent. You know, and one of the things that we were discussing earlier in the call was resilience and patience, because right now we don't have control over how fast or how slowly things move, and you just gotta stick with it and ride the wave and see where it takes you, because we can only have so much rudder control when the wind is that big, you know?
So I'm going to throw it out there since we have this conversation and you just brought that up. I've been accused of having very little patience. When people call me and I call them back immediately, they're surprised when they say on a Monday, this is great, I'll get back to you like Tuesday or Wednesday, and then it's Friday. People tell me have a little patience. You wait like a week. And my answer is, if I reach out and someone says, I'm going to call you the next 2 days or day, I reach out to them, and people have told me, no, you just don't have any patience. I played the patience game for about a month, and I realized, is it a personality issue? I am an A+ personality, or is it just that is how people think and work? I don't have the patience for people who are as I call procrastinators. Or I hear the term quite often, and maybe others want to chime in. I am so swamped. I'm so overworked. I'm so overloaded. I've got so much to do. My question is, are they good time management people? Because I don't have that problem necessarily. So some feedback if anyone wants to throw about, but yeah, the political correctness, the patience, I'm done with it. I have to let my personality shine.
I think that's a valid point when you're dealing with customers and business responsibilities that need to be taken care of and contracts that need to be signed and things like that. But there's a very fine line when you're in transition and the person you have to be patient with is the employer. Depending on the role, right? Sometimes if it's a sales job, they might appreciate that stick-to-itiveness and persistence, but other times it may work against you because they might feel that your sense of urgency is different from theirs. So again, that has to do with being able to accurately assess the situation and determine whether or not taking the extra step of being that proactive is going to be more helpful or more harmful.
Right? Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the political correctness. Like
I was going to add to it too. We had a conversation about this on one of my groups, this exact topic, and the lady that runs it, she's a career coach, and she would tend to agree with you, Alan, and says you have nothing to lose, like to go for it and be proactive, and the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So I don't know, but I also agree with Barry. It depends on who you're dealing with. So I would say go with your gut on some of them, you know, that not every single one you would want to call back that often or that often or that quickly. I don't know.
I think it also might depend on who you're interfacing with at each company, because there's a difference between bugging HR and bugging the hiring manager, who also might happen to be the VP of sales in the middle of a big deal. So it really is situation dependent. Sometimes, absolutely, you want to be that go-getter, that persistent person, that salesperson that reaches out and asks for the sale. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with another salesperson.
Well, it's just a good example, and it's very short and brief and to the point. I reached out to a company. The person called me back on a Saturday and said, I like what I hear. I'll reach back to you on Monday. Let's talk. I said, fine. And now it's Thursday. And my answer is, I'm not going to beg for the conversation. They were the one who initiated it. And so that's what people are saying is just wait till Friday and say it. I was looking forward to your call on Monday. And my answer is, if it was that important, if we were that intrigued. So that's what I'm saying is, to your point, there's a point where, yes, just sit back and wait. You don't beg. You're going to look too emotional. You're going to look too much like you're hungry. You're too hungry. And I guess it is situational. But, yeah, it's something that I have to learn to not stress over. Let's put it that way.
And Alan just brought up a very good point. Where is that fine line between appearing persistent and appearing desperate, right? And the same thing with posts that you put up on LinkedIn. You know, do you want to come across as a trusted advisor who happens to be available? Or do you want to come across as somebody who absolutely desperately needs a job tomorrow, right? How many times have we seen those LinkedIn posts where everybody's like doom and gloom, please help me? You know, it's much easier to ask for help from a position of strength and you're seeking assistance than somebody who's like in the quicksand about to go under, right? So, and EQ is not something that a lot of people have naturally. We have to develop it. And I think that understanding how you come across to other people and sort of putting yourself in that other person's shoes to listen to what you're saying. That's, you know, some people can be very impulsive and come across much differently than they intended, but it's because their internal sense of urgency is pushing through. So a lot of what COVID has done for a lot of people has been testing that, because we all feel very unsettled, very frustrated, right? And uncertain. And those are not positive emotions. And when they start to overwhelm us, we end up knee-jerk, right? Melissa?
Just I see where you're going with it, and you got to stay on top of it. And that's why, like, going out for walks and stuff is important, because you can't let it get to you.
Right.
And you're right. I didn't think about what all those negative emotions play off of each other, and it just domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
You got to recognize it when it's happening and stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Alan.
Yes.
Hey, you know, a slightly alternative way to look at it from at least the way I heard what you said is that, and I think we've all spent, you know, careers trying to get the attention of busy people. And whether they're busy because they're actually legitimately busy, or they're busy because they're disorganized, or they're busy because they're going through a, you know, unusually, you know, stressful or busy time, regardless, in these situations, whether it's a selling situation or hiring situation, you know, we're trying to get their attention, and we are trying to get something from them, business, a job, whatever. And so, you know, I've, you know, in a past, I was an Army officer, and outside of all of the political implications of all of the stuff that I'm about to say, I'm just going to share what it is that's been my experience. So I'm also a hunter, and we think a lot about patterning the animals, and so, you know, where do they drink, where do they bed, where do they eat, you know, what times of year are they most active, those types of things. And so I think it's a lot the same when we're dealing with these busy people. And a couple of things, and I've actually got a whole training course that I give to my new salespeople it's about this exact thing. And there's really two things I think that, you know, there's about 20 different lessons, but the two things that I think apply here probably most powerfully. One is the patterning, which is, you know, trying to figure out when is the best time to be for this person, for me to be trying to interact with them. And it plays into the second part that I'm about to mention in a second, but it could be things like you're on the phone with them. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest, I'll tell you a quick story. One of the biggest deals I ever closed for my current company is that I was on the phone with a guy, and it just happened to be a weird time of day that he called me. He called me and it was like 7:15 my time in Texas, and he was in Florida. And he said, "Hey, you know, is it too early for me to call you?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "You know, this time of morning, I go drop my daughter off at school, and then I have to drive an hour and a half across Jacksonville to go to my office, and I've got all this windshield time." So I'm like, bam. When I want to talk to this dude, I know that from 7:15 until 8:30 in the morning, he's just sitting there listening to XM radio. And so now I've patterned him, and I can get to him. So that's like a real, like, high quality patterning. Like I've got him nailed, and it's every day. Okay. But there's another thing, which is, you know, a lot of busy people will look at their phone, or they'll look, you know, they get up first thing in the morning and they're flicking through their phone, right? They're even laying in bed and they're checking their email, or they're checking their calendar. And I think that that's a horrible time for them to get your email, because they're not going to respond to it. They're just going to be like, "Oh, Ethan emailed me again. Damn it. All right, whatever." And then they're going to get a bunch of other emails between that, when they're taking their shower and they're shaving and they're eating their breakfast and they're driving their kids to school and all that stuff. Then they get to their office, and your email is now going to be like 50 down from where they are, right? So the one of the tricks that I've used is, and it's been pretty good, is I don't respond immediately to someone's email that I get on the weekend. I wait, especially if they say, hey, I'll call you on Monday. Then I will just not even respond to that. But on Monday, if I haven't heard from them by about like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I'll just shoot them back an email that's like, hey, Jim, that sounds great. Looking forward to talking to you today. And bam, it's right there at the top of his thing. He knows he made a commitment to you on Saturday that he was going to call you today. And now all of a sudden you're in, you have a best chance of being in his queue to get to before the end of the day. And so it's about patterning and targeting the response to these guys and timing it perfectly, right? Because again, I'll bring it back to the original point, which is we want something from them. And they have a lot of different things going on. And I think the thought that, hey, you know, you reached out to me, but how many other people that want that same position or want that same opportunity or want that same sale have reached out to them between when they said that to you? And, you know, that a lot of these, you know, it's like these people you're talking about, they're disorganized. They're like, oh, shiny. Oh, is that a bat? Oh, is that a shiny object? Let me go chase that thing. And now all of a sudden you're like something that happened 72 hours ago. And, you know, now you're looking for the next conversation to start as opposed to trying to milk every little bit of value out of that thing that happened on Saturday. So that's my.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah. Yep.
That's an excellent contribution, Ethan. Thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah.
I have some really good tips and a good perspective.
Yes. Very good. Thank you.
And when I first joined LinkedIn, they used to have these free webinars by different groups that were, you know, like freemium stuff. And I took one webinar on talking to the C-suite. And to your point, Ethan, one of the first things they recommended was trying the office before the office opens, because most CEOs and high-level people get into the office very early so that they can be productive before they start getting bombarded with emails.
Yep.
If and a lot of times at 7:30 in the morning, the receptionist isn't in yet, and if you dial somebody's direct extension, it actually rings at their desk because the reception desk is turned off. So that is definitely helpful information, but you do need to use it judiciously. You don't want to go around calling everybody at 7:30 in the morning, or you're the guy that's always calling when there's nobody in the office. But it's definitely a tactic. And it's the same thing with, you know, later in the evenings or towards the end of the day. You know, if you get the 10 minutes right after the receptionist went home, same thing. Sometimes the call goes straight through. But definitely, planning and patterning is very, very helpful, because if you're constantly buried, I agree with you. I think that's a great way to stay at the top. I have also used the tool where you can schedule emails to go out, so that if somebody emails me on a Friday afternoon, I don't want to email them back at 4:45 on Friday. But I might email them back and schedule it to be sent at Monday morning at 9 a.m. So that's another tool that you can use. If you have a hard time wrangling your enthusiasm and jumping on being that early bird to answer right away, that's another way to do it. It sort of tempers that space.
Which email do you use to do that? How do you do that?
There's a program called Gmelius, and in Outlook you can schedule your mailbox.
I don't have my Outlook set up. I use Gmail. I'm sure they have
Gmail
it.
does it too. Gmail does it too. When you go down to the bottom to send, there's a blue send button, and just to the right of the blue send button is a down arrow. You can click that and it'll say schedule send, and then you can pick different times. You can even pick a specific time. It can say like schedule specific, and you can say send it at 9:17 on Tuesday morning, and it'll send it then. I'd use that a lot to not send people emails.
I like that idea. Wait, I had a question, but I forgot how I was going to word it. Hold on.
Okay.
But go ahead. Somebody else talk.
Yeah, this is Darlene. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to say just about the situation where somebody contacts you over the weekend and then they don't contact you during the week. Your mind is in a different spot on the weekend, and sometimes you have more time then to, focus on HR issues or contacting, people that are candidates. So sometimes then when the week starts, then your whole mindset shifts and you're not focused on that person you talked to over the weekend. So I struggle with that too. And I tend to mark my calendar for follow-up with people and try to contact them when I believe they're, when they're possibly willing to reply back. And so it's challenging to, like you said, that Barry, that there's a fine line. And a lot of times, like you guys said, if somebody says they're going to call by Monday or Tuesday, I do wait till Thursday or Friday to follow up with them, or, just drop a line, say, hey, how's it going? And then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot to get back to you.
Yes, and a lot of times I read a lot of articles on just social interaction and the way people's minds work. And an interesting concept is that we don't know what somebody was doing 5 minutes before we picked up the phone to call them or email them. We don't know what kind of a day they've had. We don't know how busy they are. And so we always assume that it's something that we did, or there's something wrong with that person because they didn't respond. You always have to give people the benefit of the doubt with a small window, because that guy who had to drop off his kid at school, maybe he got a flat tire on the way to the office and he said he was going to call you at 9 o'clock, but he doesn't get there till 10, right? It could be little, it could be huge. But to Alan's original concept of people being procrastinators and not getting back to you, that's not always true. If people are really busy, they will make time for the things that are important to themselves. They'll put it on their calendar, but even sometimes, the best laid plans of mice and men oft go astray. You can have it on your calendar to call so-and-so at 10 o'clock and you drop your phone in the toilet in the bathroom, right? So just, especially now.
I have a story that happened to me about that with, I was all excited about, there's this company that I've been interested in. They moved their headquarters. It's a cybersecurity. So Ethan, I wanted to talk to you about software because I've sold software like 3 different companies. But anyway, I met this guy at a volleyball tournament and we hit it off really great. And he was like, we're hiring and, you would be great and blah, blah, blah. And when he told me how much money the salespeople made, I was like, all right, because I always thought medical would pay more. And when he told me that, it's more than medical. So I was super excited about it. And I reached out to him and I felt like he was ghosting me because it went on for like 3 weeks. Then all of a sudden he was like, COVID hit. And he's like, cybersecurity went through the roof. Everyone's on everyone needs cybersecurity right now. So luckily he got back to me and was super nice about it and just said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, not get back to you, but I don't know. I still, I did I think every week I reached out to him, but this one lady was saying every other day. And I think that's too much personally. And I wouldn't want to risk pissing somebody off. So, but maybe twice a week, I think that's even borderline. What does everyone else think? And then my other question I remembered was recruiters. Do you guys get stuff like from LinkedIn? Because a lot of like pharma reps that I'm friends with, they get stuff and I don't. And it frustrates me that they get them and I don't. But I think it's because I've been out for a little while, but I don't know. I can't assume anything. So I wanted to ask about recruiters.
Recruiters have their own special sauce, their own way of identifying their candidates, their own way of building their pipeline, their own. So it's just, sometimes it's just you're outside the circle, or you're not in an area of geographic importance to them. I mean, there's so many reasons why a recruiter doesn't reach out to you. Conversely, there are recruiters who spread something so far across the universe, just hoping that it's not right for you, but you'll send them you'll forward it to someone who it is right for, and that, again, fills their pipeline. So I really wouldn't focus too much on the opportunities that recruiters have or don't have for you. You really need to make your own luck. And doing that.
That's what I've been doing. I just get asked that question all the time. And you know, my mom is always like, well, what about, I'm like, it's not that way anymore anyway. It's like, those days are gone where you call and the recruiter looks for a job for you. No, they have their companies they work for. And you're right. I think it's tightened. It's a smaller niche kind of market, but it's way different than it was 10, 15 years ago with recruiters. So.
Yeah, recruiters work for the companies and we're the product. They're selling us. So they get to pick what product they want to sell. And they have very specific guidelines given to them by their boss, that employer. And if you don't check off everything on that box, you're never going to get a phone call or an email. And that's the frustration that a lot of people with diverse backgrounds experience, because they don't have this exact list of qualifications. And that's why Steve and I have always focused on networking. And that's why he created the Medical Device Sales Professionals Group, because we get so much more by going through the side door and the back door and networking. Recruiters, to me personally, are kind of a last resort.
Right. It's a time sucker too. I've noticed. I would way rather network than, I don't reach out to them anymore, but I'm grateful for a few of my friends. You know, I'm like, hey, if you ever get anything, just take a screenshot of it and send it to me. Yeah. And I get them from them that way occasionally.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's still networking.
Right.
Yeah,
and
my experience with
out to her, and then she reached out to me. So that's another one. I reached out to this lady. She is a recruiter. Her name is Helen Culver, and there's some neurology sales, and throughout the country, she's posted like 6 or 8. Now I would have never seen that if my friend didn't send it to me, but I was second connected to her, so I sent her a message last night, and we'll wait and see if she gets back to me. But I'm not. Yeah, I agree with you. I've learned to let it go. I was just curious if other people were getting them.
Darlene?
Yeah, I have a comment to make about recruiters. The last 2 weeks, I had a recruiter call me, and I thought this was interesting. I could tell right away her age was below 30. Let's just say it that way. Yeah. And we were only on the phone for a few minutes. Actually, I wasn't even going to answer the phone because it looked like a spam. But she's like, oh, hi, blah, blah, blah. And she started asking me questions about my background. And then I could hear like a phone ring in the background. And she's like, oh, someone's calling me that I've been trying to talk to all day, another candidate. I said, oh, okay. So I said, let's cut it off if you have to go. It sounds like this is much more important. And so I sent her my resume. She had this quote unquote job that was, she needed my resume, very nondescript, because of course we got cut off quickly. And the next day, I sent her my resume, and she's like, oh, we're going to hold off till July. I'm like, you didn't know that 24 hours ago. That's interesting. And then this week I got a LinkedIn message on LinkedIn, obviously. And the recruiter's like, I need your resume. I need your resume. I said, listen, I need a job description. I tailor all my resumes to the job. So he's like, oh, I'm working on the JD. Okay, great. In the meantime, send me your resume. Okay. today, I never heard from him yesterday. I sent him the resume at like 8, 9 o'clock at night. Next day, never heard from him. This morning, I texted a LinkedIn message. He's like, oh, they interviewed someone yesterday and they really like that person. So we'll have to see how that plays out. So to me, here's my theory. You can take it or leave it, because my husband has friends who are recruiters, but in different industries. They're salespeople. They're only after their commission check. I'm sorry if anybody on this call is a recruiter. You will have to convince me otherwise based on my experience. And I think there are some valid bona fide. My first job was with a recruiter, Dan Kelly. He's out of San Diego. I loved him to death. And I was at the end of my rope. I'm like, I'm not going to move from nursing into medical devices. It's never going to happen. I've been on, a bunch of interviews, and he's like, I really want you to talk to this company. It was Covidian, and it worked out really well. But since then, that was 13 years ago. So things have changed. And I think all those people, they've always worked on commission. And so, I get that. I understand it. It's just that, sometimes they're just collecting resumes, I swear, for the sake of collecting them. But maybe there's another rationale that I'm not familiar with. And they do work for the company. They don't represent you at all, in my opinion, because again, your ties is with your income. So wherever your income is coming from, that's who you're going to be connected to.
Right. But, in defense of recruiters, there are some good ones out there.
Oh, definitely. There is no doubt in my mind. Like I said, this Dan Kelly and a couple others that I've spoken to, salt of the earth, just really good people. But I think the whole business model has changed there. And so, it's a different animal.
Absolutely. Okay, we're getting towards the top of the hour here. Does anybody else have anything they want to throw out before we start to wrap things up?
Oh, I have one other thing that I wanted to ask you guys about. So I had the 2 information meetings over the phone, and the one, I don't want to get too, and I'm trying to be cognizant of time too. Anyway, the woman that I spoke to would be a counterpart for this Pfizer job that I'm applying for. And she had 2 kids in the background, and they were so loud and kept interrupting. And I get it. They were 3 and 5. I mean, this poor woman, I felt so sorry for her. Like, how are you supposed to work and take care of these kids? And you can't take them to daycare and blah, blah, blah. So I commend her. She did the best she could. But she sounded, I don't know, she was like, well, this is like because I was asking, do you know anything about the competition? And she said, well, I have to talk to everyone. You're like the 6th person I talk to. And then she was telling me, that's not what I thought I'd share that too. But the other thing was, she said that companies ask for your last paycheck stub. And I'm like, I have never had a company do that. And I think that is so personal. And I want to know what you guys think, because that blew me away. It's never happened to me before. And I think it's weird, personally.
Mm-hmm. They want proof of income. They want to make sure that you told them you're making $100,000 a year, that's what you were making. And they judge people based on how much money they make.
I don't like that.
For me, I wouldn't want to work for a company that operates that way, but that's just me. Some people don't have a problem with it. It is intrusive, and it is none of their business.
Well, and just I don't know, because in sales, it's all over the board. You could have a great month and you could have a not so great month. And I don't know. She was like, oh, all of the jobs
like
that I've had to do that. And I was like, really? Because I don't know if I said none of mine, because I didn't want to say too much.
Okay, I have a question. I have a question for you, Melissa, though. You made a comment in telling the story that this was an informational interview, but then the woman told you that she had 6 other people to speak to, and you were asking about the competition. That doesn't sound like an informational interview. That sounds like an interview, because interview.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I looked at it that way, and I think in my mind, if I tell myself that, I mean, it was kind of unexpected. So I have a contact, George. George introduced me to Jay. Jay was in the position that I'm applying for, and Jay's counterpart was this girl that I talked to, and he said, you should talk to her. So he kind of played it down like, oh, you're just going to have a conversation with her. So that's, I'm portraying it how he portrayed it to me.
Okay.
So, and then it's funny, I got an, after, like later just yesterday afternoon, I got the email about the video interview. So, and then he also gave me the name and phone number because I asked, and he said, Jay, this is the guy, Jay, he's transferring from this department into oncology. And he said the territory was good and he had been there 5 years. But he said he would ask permission because I said, is it possible for me to get the name of the hiring manager or, you know, like your manager and his phone number or a way to contact him? And so he said, let me ask permission. And I couldn't believe it. He gave it to me. So I waited until I had the conversation with him, until I got the referral link, because I was like, I'm not going to apply again without having a referral link. So I finally got the referral link from George, and I officially applied for the position yesterday morning. So then I could say, okay, I've done this, this, and this before I have the conversation with the hiring manager or this guy, Matt, who's his boss, who would be my boss. He would be my boss.
Okay.
So, and that girl gave me some information about him as well and told me he has 6 kids. So I don't know, but I thought so she's like, he's a family man and he's a really good guy and he's a nice guy. And she's like, I like working for him. And so she's like, he's one of the best bosses I've ever had. So I was happy to hear that, but of course she's not going to say anything bad about him.
Right. But that whole scenario brings up an interesting point about how people approach or address their processes. And it sounds like George or Jay led you to believe that you were having an informational interview, but maybe they told the woman that you spoke to with the kids, who sounded a little bit overwhelmed, to like feel you out and suss out whether she thought you would be a good fit. So you thought you were having an informational interview, then you realized that it was an interview. So, so you have to be really careful, depending on the situation, which questions are appropriate.
Right.
And it sounds like everything in that particular phone call got a little bit muddled because she got frustrated that you were asking her questions about the competition when she thought she was giving you the informational interview and getting information from you. So that's a challenging situation to be in. So it's something to be.
I hope I handled it okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think I did, but I also could tell she wanted to kind of get off the phone and, you know, but I got some valuable information about like the territory and, you know, that they have some of their biggest accounts are in Pueblo. So she's like, yeah, we go to Pueblo every week. And that was good to know because that's like almost 3 hours away, which I'm fine with. It's fine. So, I mean, stuff like that, you never know. So it was interesting. What are your thoughts about how to handle something like that? Like if it ever happens again? Because I feel like I was thrown, you're right, like it was a bait and switch type thing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you recommend?
Well, did you feel like it's switched halfway through from informational to actually a regular interview? Or
I kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was trying, I didn't want to sell myself to her because I knew I didn't have to necessarily, but then I almost felt like, ooh, I better say something here, you know, like why me, you know, to try to separate myself a little bit from the other 6 people she talked to.
Well, see, that's that to me, that's where the whole situation went off the rails. Because if it was an informational interview, she wouldn't be doing informational interviews for 7 people.
Exactly.
It's a little
Exactly.
strange.
And that was at the very end when I was kind of trying to close her in a way. I was like, oh, well, I'm really excited about this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, do you happen to know what the competition looks like for this job? That's how I phrased the question. And then she was like, well, I had to talk to 6 people already.
Yeah, that sounds like there wasn't quite enough structure for people to know what was going on. And yeah, if that's just, I think that was just a little bit awkward, because you didn't set up that informational interview yourself with full knowledge of all the parties involved. It was set up for you by somebody else who maybe had a different idea of what was going to happen in that phone call.
Well, and in hindsight now, thinking about my conversation with Jay, which lasted over half an hour, a little sus that he said, oh, well, Courtney is my counterpart and you probably want to talk to her. Here's her number. That right there was the hook, and I should have known. But how do you prepare for something like that? I was just trying to look at it as relationship. I wanna hit it off with her, and right. I mean, because I don't know, there's not much more you can do. I had no idea of how much time she was gonna allow. There were so many unknowns about the call, right? And I think that's what you're alluding to.
So Melissa, I would only add, and I'm listening to this thinking that if you do find out, immediately after you did find out that it was a whole interview, maybe take a step back. And if you have that kind of mindset to step back and go, how can I help you? You sound like you're a little stressed, or why, you've got a lot of things going on. How can I help you? And then change gears on her. She'll probably open up to you. Like, she's probably
I did do that. I did do that.
Yeah.
I acknowledge, like, wow, you're juggling a lot right now, I
yeah,
kind of like that, like compassion, empathy.
The other thing I was going to say,
you don't think I should reach back out to her again, do you? No.
The other thing I was going to say to you is, in preparation for your, she was trying to screen you. I think it sounded like she was trying to screen you on your income level. She went pretty direct with you. Like, you have to
No, I asked for a range because they asked that on the application.
Yeah. So I've had that before, and I'm in a unique position right now because I have an outsourcing counselor that works with me every week, and we talk about just different ways to answer those questions. And one of his suggestions to me was, you have to pattern this as totally unrelated positions. So compare the two. Your range was A, B, or C. What's the range applicable to the position you're applying for? Because all 3 of the examples I'm going to give you are unrelated to what I'm applying for. So he pretty much turned it around on him, and I really liked his approach. How he kind of diverted that. It was a range, but he identified the range was low because I took a position mainly just to have a job. It wasn't really the one I wanted, but I was working to get to that next level. Things that just kind of think through, maybe, I don't know. I'm just offering opportunity or suggestions of how I thought he helped me get through that question to preempt that. And I thought that was really good because I struggle with it as well. I'm like, why are you asking
that again? My phone rang about how I missed some of it. What did he tell you to do?
He told me to basically identify it in 3 different levels, right? So the range was where I was, but identify the low level and the high level totally unrelated to each other. So he was just basically allowing me to allow diversity in the pay scale of why I had a low range and a high range. And I didn't want to limit myself. Like you said, maybe it's the $1 million account that I want, right? I don't want to limit myself to, say, pigeonhole myself to one number. What does this look like in your eyes? Because all three of my examples are going to be unrelated to what you're doing. So that's how he wanted me to look at it, from a position of identifying three different levels and making sure I separate them as all different because of the different roles that I was in. So, then turn it around to apply that to the position that you're applying for and see if it's in the range.
Well, it's always been a struggle, like you said, with that question. And I really don't like when they put that on the applications. But what I've been doing, if it's not, sometimes you're not allowed to because they want an actual number. But on this one, I was able to put negotiable because, I mean, it's so in sales, it's so contingent upon what is their commission structure like, what's the territory. There's so many factors. The salary could be low, but they pay 30% commission. The salary could be high and they might only pay 5%. You know what I mean? Right. So how can I say a figure? I feel like that's just rude of them almost. Like, I need more information to answer that. So, but I did get it out of her. I asked Jay wouldn't give it to me. I asked George didn't know. So I'm like, I'm going to ask Courtney. But at that point, I had already put negotiable. So I don't even know why I bothered asking her. It was more out of curiosity because I had no idea where they're at,
One quick thing, Melissa. It's just like in the regular job interview process, it's very important to be mindful of when you discuss money. It's just like in the old days, don't talk money until the second interview. This whole range thing, this is a very common topic that comes up for people in transition of trying to figure out the salary and when is it okay to ask and do they have the right to ask me that. Steve, would you like to chime in on this particular topic since you've joined us?
Hi, welcome everyone. It sounds like you guys really shared a lot of information, and Melissa, this is always a tough one. And again, I came in at the end, so I didn't hear all of the situation, but if all possible, I say something as simply whatever the going range is for an expert in this field, what the current industry trend is. I'm an expert in my field, and that's my pay range. And part of it is to, I think, someone said it earlier, they're going to use this as a vetting process. So part of it is it's just another objection. And if they're screening you with 6 or 7 other people, they can't ask your age. They can't ask if you're pregnant. There's a lot of things they can't ask. Pay is one of them. And if they ask you, that's probably not a good fit. Because if all they're buying is price, right, you wouldn't buy on price alone. Then you're becoming a commodity.
Listen to this. She said that I have to provide my most recent paycheck stub.
Or what?
I know.
Or what? Thank you. I'm not interested. So this is the part. If they start out with that tone, think about what it's going to be like working for an organization like that.
Great point.
Yep. That's the first comment that I made.
You know what? Like, I've been doing all this studying stuff, and if it doesn't feel right, if there's something that doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Mm-hmm. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, Melissa, and you know what? We could talk about this all day. And just on a side note, because we have to jump off, unfortunately, we have another call in a little while, but we're gonna try to splinter off and have separate transition calls coming up so we can dive deep into some of these things. Because the thing is, Melissa, and I talk about this all the time, and you know this, everyone here on the call, you all have a unique fit, right? What's a good fit for you? When I say, give me the ideal company, there may be some commonality, but at the end of the day, there's slight nuances of what you're looking for: management style, product, their mission statement, the size of the team. Financial compensation is important, but it may not be in the top 2, 3, or 5. But what happens is when the company leads with money, and Barry actually knows this, and again, we'll talk about another topic, and we all do, is that if that's what their criteria is, sure, could you overcome that objection that you deserve a high salary? Yes. If they don't give you a chance, you'll never get that opportunity. So a lot of us are sitting there thinking, oh, if I just get my foot in the door and kind of sneak under the radar, when I get in front of them, I can make my sales pitch why they should pay me more than the other person. And by then it's too late, because it's an uphill battle. And you know that you're working with people that will never appreciate the value you bring to the organization. If they don't see it from the get-go, they're not going to see it later. So ideally, and again, so I'm actually working with a friend of mine, and we're putting together a book on working. Companies want to be the employers of choice, right? And I'll use not right now, of course, but Disney. People line up to work at Disney when there's an opening, right? People used to line up at Google, Apple, right? People want to work for certain companies because of the way they treated people. And it wasn't just the pay, it was everything that came before that. So as much as you're looking for a job, you're also looking for an opportunity that fits you like a glove. And that's where taking the research, and this is hard because I know you get to that point, you're like, I want to apply. It seems reasonable. I can do it. Yeah, we can do it. But does it get you out of bed? Does it drive you to move forward? Is it along your path, your vision, what you want to do? Will it allow you to do more of the things you're good at than less? Or is it just a job, a temporary job till the next better one comes along? And again, a lot of factors, a lot of variables, and that's all I want to say. I know I came late, so I'm done.
So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me today. We actually were on for quite a while. I think we covered a lot of ground. Hopefully it was helpful.
This was awesome.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And now you got to meet Steve, Darlene, Derek, Steve, Derek.
Howdy.
Thank you so much. It was great.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
And
I was gonna say I was projecting through Barry. It sounds like she did a good job, right? Coming through.
She did an awesome job.
Thank you.
Well, she's my sister from another mister, right? That's another story. You know what? Monday night when we have a cocktail, we'll share that story.
Okay, good.
So
I want to hear about that you were in the bar when he met his wife. I want that story.
Yeah, that's
we'll tell that on Monday night. That'll give you a reason to come back.
all right. That will be our ice warming, our ice breaking, our warming up story. Get on the call a few minutes early because I don't want to share everything with.
It always goes so fast.
I know. I know. Well, you need to have a bigger glass, Melissa. Maybe your glass isn't big enough. So. All right. Well, thank you again. Sorry I got delayed with a client presentation.
It's fine.
Yeah, it worked well. But you know what? My peeps, right? I want to be with my peeps. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and we'll catch up with you shortly.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.